The harvest at Kelowna Vineyard started on September 2nd and ended on October 3rd. We began with the Malbec and Merlot. Here we are in our Block 2 Merlot, which was one of a few blocks which had a relatively poor fruit set. That is, the quantity of fruit was smaller than expected, but this often means that the quality is better. And in fact, our 2009 harvest seems to have yielded very high quality fruit. The harvesters pick the clusters into their 20-pound lugs, and then they dump those into the half-ton picking bins. We try to get out as many leaves and the other debris as possible at this stage. Our dog Molly loves the harvest and she's up early with the pickers, but she exhausts herself, so she rests at home when we take the grapes down to vinify for winemaking. Now here we are in our Cabernet Franc vineyard on our last day of our harvest, October 3rd. Note that the Cabernet Franc set very well, so there is significantly more fruit per plant than in the Merlot blocks. The half-ton picking bins are loaded onto the trucks of Grace Vineyard Management, which will transport us down the road 8 miles to where we make wine, at Vinify. So here we are at Vinify with an overview of the winemaking process as we begin it, known as the crush. As an overview of the process, the grapes will be sorted, then they'll go up a conveyor where the stems will be removed. They'll fall through it and go onto a second sorting table, then off to the tanks. Here you can see a bit more detail. The grapes are first dumped from the picking bins onto a shaking table, which meters out the clusters onto the first sorting table. On the first table, we pull out any leaves or other bad-looking clusters. The clusters then go up the conveyor into the stemmer crusher. We generally choose not to crush our grapes, so whole berries fall out onto the next table as the stems go out the back of the equipment and are discarded. On this second sorting table, we are looking primarily to remove vegetative material, pieces of the stems which have made it through the stemmer crusher. By the end of the process, we have beautiful clean whole berries, and these go into a tank to ferment. In this case, you are seeing the 2 tons from our Merlot Oreno vineyard go into this relatively small fermenting tank. While most of our grapes were fermented in tanks, we also did some fermentation in barrel. This was a technique I learned at Chateau Quinault in Bordeaux and is now used by many high-end wineries in Napa. Our Colonel's Vineyard Cabernet was fermented this way. In that scene, I'm spinning the barrel in order to break up the cap, or the skins, which rise to the top. After about 3 to 4 weeks of fermentation, the free-run wine is taken from the barrel and will be put back into clean barrels. The pumice is then pulled out of these barrels and moved to the press for pressing. Here the wine is being pumped back into the barrels. It is the same for our wines in tank. After fermentation, free-run juice runs out of the tank and is put directly into barrel. It is a project to get the pumice out of the tank. Here we enlist a vinify worker to get in the tank with sanitized feet, to push out the pumice as best he can. Finally, he'll shovel it out so we could get it to the press and then back into barrel. That is a short version of a hectic but successful harvest season for 2009. We were very happy that we were able to finish harvest before the huge rains in mid-October. The rest of the fall was beautiful as the vineyard goes into dormancy and readies itself for 2010. As a postscript, we had a notable late fall event here at Kelowna as a helicopter landed between our house and the Colonel's vineyard. This helicopter came for Bobby Jones, the former Mets All-Star pitcher who was staying at the partner's house. He was surprising his wife Christy with a birthday lunch on the coast. Here they are prior to departure. It was so exciting and such a beautiful day that we had to watch for the helicopter's return at the appointed time. And off it went again.